Hello class, we'll be doing the prose section today, that is the Chief Sheetal speech. This is the first chapter in your treasure trove, that is the short stories portion. Okay, so as always, before proceeding towards the story or whatever the concept we are about to study, let us know something about the the writer. Okay, so this is written by anonymous. Means this is by Chief Sheetal itself. Okay, there is a speech that he reads out for his native people. That speech is translated into different languages. Okay, and he is only the writer, we would consider, because his speech only we will take it in the whole story. Okay, we will not study anything else. We will only speak about what is written in the speech that he is reading for his people. Now before talking about the speech, let us know a little bit about Chief Sheetal. Okay, who was he? He was the leader of the Squamish and the Duwamish Confederacy and the popular figure in his tribe. Okay, and he is the most important figure in the early American history. He is fighting for the rights of his native people in the face of the American colonizers. Now, what do you mean by this Chief Sheetal? Even the place where he stayed, no, that place also was called as Chief Sheetal. It was in his name himself. That was the small colony of America. Okay, and Washington, yeah. And then what happens is the England comes and takes rule over America. British, okay, they take rule over this America. They try to conquer the whole territory of Washington, but this small portion of Chief Sheetal is left undivided. Okay, that is theirs own. That is not under the present great chief of Washington, was not under him. So what this great chief tries to take away that colony, that people, that tribe, that Chief Sheetal's tribe, in order to make it the whole territory theirs. Okay, so for that they write a petition to Chief Sheetal, as he is the leader of his tribe, that he will be taking away their territory, their land, and in return will providing them what? Will be providing them lives. Okay, now this his speech. Now why he writes this speech? He writes this speech for those native peoples, for Native Americans as well as Red Indians. These are considered to be Chief Sheetal's people. Okay, when these American colonizers, they wanted to buy the native land of his tribe, no, and in return what they were offering? Food. They were offering them amnesty and also the right to live there. Okay, that was the proposal. That was the kind of agreement. Yet I will not consider it to be an agreement, because the Chief Sheetal had not accepted that till now. Okay, and what happens? Chief Sheetal, who had been natives killed, he reluctantly accepted the offer, since he believed that turning it down would only result in the total annihilation of his tribe. Okay, about this will come later. Now let us proceed. A little bit of clearance is done, that why the letter is being written and what is the letter. Now we'll be reading on that. So children, I'll be I have made a summary of the whole portion. Okay, so what your work is, you will listen to the voice, as well as you will first and foremost, you will go through the book. Maybe you will not be very much clear on the chapter, but when you hear the summary, it will clarify many things. Okay. Okay, so his speech is a heartfelt speech to the governor of the state of Washington. So not only to his people, he is writing it to the Washington, the great chief of Washington also. And this speech was publicized on a very large scale. About the author I will give you, okay, in which he argued in favor of an ecological responsibility and respect of land rights of Native Americans. So he is writing about the rights of his people. Although what he exactly said has been lost through translation and writing. The speech was published in Seattle's newspaper in 1887 by a pioneer who confirmed that he had heard them delivering it in 1854. That means this is just a translation. Apart from this, no other record has been found. So that is the only speech they have. They have translated this speech into English and then it is being given out. Okay, now Chief Seattle delivered the speech to mark the transfer of ancestral Red Indians' land to a federal government. Okay, that means he is writing a letter where the great chief wants their land, no? Chief Seattle's speech. So in that case only he is writing this letter to the federal government. Now he says that the great chief in Washington sends greeting of friendship and goodwill and wishes to buy their land. This is kind on his part, as he has little need of our friendship in return, because his people are strong and more powerful than the Red Indians. Why? Yeah, what he considers himself, no, that means they are very fewer left in number now. Who? The Red Indians. The Red Indians as well as the Native Americans are the people of Chief Seattle. Okay, so he knows that they are like the vast prairie. They were once the vast prairies that filled up the whole land, but they are now like storm-swept trees. What is the meaning of this vast prairies? Vast prairies are like, it's a figure of speech. Okay, you'll find it in your textbook. It means that it's like a grass. Children, can we count the number of grasses that we have in our school instance? So like an instance you can take that only. It is impossible. So once upon a time these Red Indians were also like that. That means they were large in number. Okay, but now they are like the storm-swept trees. So, storm-swept trees means when there is a like big tsunami or a flood coming, what happens after the aftermath of it? What we see is some trees are already taken away by the water and some like are falling in the ground. Okay, and some we see they are about to fall. That means a kind of injured, which are not straight, which are slightly bent, you know. So and what we see is those trees are countable in number, first and foremost. Okay, first example that I gave of vast prairies are uncountable, but these storm-swept trees are countable. That means from here only you can easily recognize that they are left out with very less in number. Okay, that's why they know that they are very weak. So somebody is offering them help. Somebody is offering, even if they come and attack them also, Chief Seattle won't be able to fight because his army is very less. His people are very less. Okay, as compared to the white Americans. White Americans are the people of Great Chief who are staying in the same place. Okay, in the same Washington, but they are a little bit aloof. Okay, and they are powerful. They are superior. Here, the inferior people are the Red Indians. Okay, so he is telling that the offer that the Great Chief is giving us is quite okay, because he has promised that he'll give our land, he'll give us to stay and at least to survive. Okay, though I don't know how we'll be treated later, but they are offering. It's a kind act of like the Great Chief, what he is telling us. Okay, now He's telling us that because his people are strong and more powerful than the Red Indians. So whose people are strong? The great chief of Washington. His people are strong. That means there are large in number, they are many. That's why they are strong. Okay. Chief Shetal recalls the time when his people were larger in number, but now they are reduced to a mournful memory. Okay. So this is what I was telling. But he will not mourn over their untimely decay. Mournful memory means for those people who are already dead, who are not alive. Okay, so then he is telling that he remembers those like happy times when there were so many people of his territory too. But he is telling, I will not mourn over them, untimely decay, those people who died beforehand. I will not mourn over, I will not cry, I will not like feel sorrow for them, for their death. Okay, why? For that he gives various reasons, because he believes that somehow we are also like the culprit of of a diminishing of our people. He considers the Chief Shetal. He considers that it is because of us also that our people are very less in number. So he gives one after the other reasons. Okay, the first reason is, you will find that in your second paragraph in your book, that is, it is written, young are impulsive. Okay, so that means, what do you mean by that? Young people, they are very impulsive. They are very much faster, like very fast in taking decisions. They don't give a second thought of anything, right? So these young people, they are too aggressive and want to take the revenge even at the cost of their own lives. So they are so much behind taking revenge. Okay, that if somebody comes and slaps them, that especially in front of public, they'll forget every rules. They'll forget there's a family at home. They'll go and just take a sword and then kill also. That can happen right now. Okay, people are really they don't give a second thought of anything. They don't think that there's a family whom I have to look after. What will happen if something happens to me? My whole family will be shattered. My whole family will come to road. They're not thinking that. That means they're ruining their own life and their families at the cost of taking revenge. Okay, so but the old men are wise and do not want to continue their hostile attitude towards them. And those people, that means old, if young are young are doing like that, no, the old cannot behave in that way, because they are uncontrollable also. Their anger, the aggressive nature cannot be controlled by those old people. So that means they have to just keep quiet and they have to face it. Okay, their attitude, they are very much aggressive. They don't listen to the family also. They are only, the thing is, they just want to fulfill their revenge and then they'll be satisfied. Okay, now it was the time when the white men pushed their forefathers westward. And the second reason what Chief Shetal considered, that first was because of young, second was because of the ancestors. And ancestors means those people who are now no more, forefathers. Okay, so those forefathers were pushed westward. That means though if they were educated, that happens. We have already studied in history, those educated people, the intellectuals people are all taken towards westward in order to develop their country and to work for them, no? So similarly, they were all migrated. They were all taken from their people, from their land. Okay, and he wishes the George Washington, who calls as their good father, will protect them. So George Washington is at that time the great chief of Washington. Fine, then they became the fathers of good fathers of Chief Shetal also, because Chief Shetal's territory also belongs in Washington only. No. So his brave warriors will protect them from ancient enemies. And what he is telling is, he's promising that if there are any enemies that comes and attacks this Chief Shetal's people, he will come and protect. Will attack the Hades and the Simpsons, it is written. If they come and try to attack those innocent people, they said that we will stand in front of you. But this is only possible, this is only to be done only when he gives their land to the great chief. Okay. Now, then he encounters a fear that the god of white people is not their god. And third reason, what he says for their reason of dying, for their reason of getting finished his tribe, is that their god is not our god. That means the division of god is also shown in this speech. Okay, he only loves his people. So God only loves his people. His people means the great chief's people, not our people. He doesn't love us. He makes the pale face stronger and forsaken his red children. So those pale face means the white Americans. Okay, so those white Americans are made stronger and stronger day by day, and he is not even seeing one eye to not even giving a small help to the red Indians, to Chief Shetal's native people. Okay, he cannot love his red Indian children, so how can they be brothers? Now he's saying, if God is also differentiating, if God also try to differentiate, then how can people on earth be brothers? How can whites and the reds be brothers? How can we live together? According to the great chief, he says that we'll stay together, we'll fight for you. But if God is also not looking after us, do you think the people on earth will look after us? Now they seem to be orphan. They is here the red Indians. Okay, so they seem like orphans because first and foremost, family, many lost families, no, the red Indians, the Chief Shetal's people, and now they not even God is looking for them. Okay, thus he says that they are two distinct races with separate origins and separate destinies. There is only little common between them. So what? We are people with different destiny. Though we are humans, both of us, but we have different destinies. We have limited thoughts. Okay, we have to look after everything by ourselves. There is nobody to look for us. There is very less common in us. What is that? We both are humans. We all, so there's a blood circulated in both of our body. Rest, nothing is similar. He further remarks that the ashes of our ancestors are sacred and their resting place is that land, whereas now he's talking about those ancestors, the sacredness of his ancestors. Whose ancestors? The red Indians' ancestors. Ancestors means those people who are no more now. Okay, the forefathers. That means those forefathers who have rested forever. That place is a temple. That is a very sacred place for them. Okay, that means their land. Whereas the white wander away from the graves of their ancestors. Whereas the white Americans, if their forefathers are dead in England, they easily migrate towards another country. No problem. That means what is most important for them is business, money, that's it. Once they are dead and gone, they are forgotten. They are no more remembered by the white people. But those people who have left us, for us, no, it is like our soul is also there. We cannot leave them. Okay, red Indians, Chief Shetal is telling that. For us, our God, our ancestors. But for the whites, they all migrate from one place to another. They don't even see and go and check out where their forefathers are dead, or they don't bother about it. When they are alive, they are looked after, but once they are dead, they are somewhere else. The white men's religions were written upon the stone tablets of our iron fingers of their God. So he's telling that their laws were written in the iron fingers. Okay, but the red Indians religion is a tradition of our ancestors. And what is our rules and regulations? We are following the same rules and regulations what our ancestors have taught. We are going on we are following the legacy. We are following what our great ancestors have done, forefathers, what they have been doing. We are continuing the same thing. Okay. He then says that their red man ceased to love them, but their ancestors can never forget this beautiful world. He's saying, yeah, this is also acceptable that those people of those white people, okay, once they are dead and gone, they love their people. They love their people, but our ancestors, no, even if they are dead and gone, they cannot leave our land. They are somewhere here. That means their soul is rotated. Their soul is in every corners, because there are a lot of good memories that they have spent. The soul itself of those dead ancestors only doesn't leave us. They are only surrounded. Okay, they keep on loving its verdant valleys, murmuring rivers, significant mountains, valleys, lakes, and bays. That means they not only they love their people, they love their native land, those ancestors. They are going to the rivers. That means they are everywhere. The memory is everywhere. He remarks that the red man has ever fled the approach of the white man as the morning mist disappears before the morning sun. Grim fate seems to follow them, and soon his race will disappear. And he also accepts that one after the other, the forefathers are there. Now, if we are 10,000 people, very soon will be 5,000. He knows everything, and he is quite prepared of it. But then Chief Shetal says that they will consider the matter, and before accepting President's proposal, he will put forth the condition that they will not be denied to visit. Okay, now he is telling that, yeah, that is certain. Though it comes to us, it will come to you too. You people are very strong. Maybe not today, but tomorrow, for sure. Because everybody has to die. Okay. Then he is telling that, yeah, we will accept your proposal, but there are some conditions we will be putting out. What is the condition? The condition would be that we are free to go and visit our ancestors' tomb whenever we want to. That means there should not be any restrictions. Wherever our ancestors' tomb will be, even if we are situated far away from that, whenever we want, we can go and visit. There should be no boundaries, no hurdles to stop us. Okay, that is the condition to be given to the great chief. And he concludes, now the speech is being concluded, his speech by saying that when the last red man has vanished from the earth, his memory will become myth, and the shores and forest will hold the fruits of his tribe. He's saying, and when the last red man, now everybody has perished, only one last man is left. Even if when he dies, the whole red Indians have finished. Okay, now if the whole kingdom, the whole Washington is filled with whites only, don't think that we are dead and gone. We will be somewhere here only. You will never be left alone. You will always find the feeling that we are alive. Our souls will keep on migrating from one place to another. Okay, and when your people almost all are dead, only one is left, no. So what happens? He will also be not left alone, because our people, our dead people, will always surround and love and support to you also, who has never supported us. Okay, that means when the streets are all empty, deserted, what happens? It won't be deserted. Even in the late nights, or it will be see that there are crowded, the road is crowded with people, people. Which people? The Red Indians, who are dead and gone. Okay. Then he believes that the red of the community were the part of his world, and said there is no death, but there is only the change of worlds. For him, he says no, that for him, he doesn't believe that dead means gone. Dead means just the change of world. Change of world means going and meeting those people and making their own locality, making their own territory over there for those people who are dead. That means people are never dead. Okay, only their body rests. The soul is still alive, and the soul is free to go anywhere, any place, any time. So don't think that we will dead and gone, so the whole land belongs to yours. It is not that. The land to which you are standing is much more than ours than yours, because the footsteps that is here, in the ground, is much many of our ancestors who are barefoot here and there. you have just stepped here, but this is the hologram, this is the our home, this is like the most like sacred place for us, which we will not be leaving even after our deaths. Okay, so this is written in the speech that he is giving out to the great chief of Washington. Okay, fine. So this is all about the chapter. Go through it, and you tell me if you have any problems. We'll sort it out.